Serious people who have killed another person, accidentally or on purpose. What happened? I'll preface this by saying it was an accident. I was 11 years old and had gotten into that tinkering phase kids go through, and I was fiddling with my brakes, gears, etc. I went on a ride to a super steep hill that was really popular to test my creation. As I was blasting down the hill, the nut that secures the handlebars jostles loose, and I lost all semblance of control. I can remember the car coming towards me from the opposite direction, but after that I hit the ground. The car swerved to miss me and went straight into a tree, killing the whole family, mom, dad and 2 sons. I lived in an extremely small town and the aftermath was horrible. Long after the candlelight vigils that I still see in my nightmares and memorials ended, I and my family were bullied, harassed and generally shunned. Kids can be horrible, but as a child I understood that. But the adults of the town, they were cruel. They called me MK, murder kid. By age 13 I attempted suicide. After a lengthy hospital stay, my family had to move to across the state out of the town we went generations back in. I'm all grown now and only recently felt safe going back there and to the hill. That changed everything. Part of my continuing therapy. The worst part about it is at the spot where they died there is a perfectly maintained cross and flowers bearing their names. Someone still mourns them, brings flour and clears the weeds away. I was not prepared for that. It ripped open any feelings of closure I had. In my head, it was over for everyone but me. It wasn't. So how do I live now? One day at a time. There are good ones and bad ones, but not a day goes by that I don't think about it. It is like living with a disfigurement, perhaps that biblical mark of Cain. I feel others can see it in my eyes the same way I can. I was 13 years old living in Norway. Growing up I loved climbing trees, so me and my friends would climb the tallest ones we could find. Our town in Norway was quite small and quite high in elevation, so the best trees were down towards the river. We decided to get together one Friday and head down to the river to do some climbing. We always took a backpack with lunch and snacks and water with us, so we could hang out in our tree until dark. It was my friend's younger brother, 11, who was carrying the backpack full of snacks, and I was carrying the backpack full of drinks. My friend's younger brother was not as used to climbing trees as we were, but like any little brother he wasn't about to let that stand in his way and prevent him from hanging out with his big brother and his best friend. As it was a rare occurrence, we'd let him hang out with us. We were almost to the part of the tree where there was a spot for us to all be able to sit. I got there first, and I hung my backpack up on a tree branch. I then told my friend's little brother to pass me his backpack so I could hang it on the branch and make it easier for him to get to where I was. While he was passing me his backpack, his foot slipped off the branch and he didn't have the upper arm strength to carry his own weight yet. He fell the whole way down the tree, landed in the river onto jagged rocks, and was killed instantly. My friend and I were out of that tree faster than I even thought it was possible, and what we saw that day changed us forever. All he wanted to do was hang out with his big brother and do what the big kids were doing. I feel like if I never told him to pass me his backpack, we'd all be in a tree right now drinking a beer thinking back on all our ventures. But instead, my best childhood friend can no longer be in the same room as me. I have not heard from him or his family in over 10 years, and every single day of my life they pop into my mind and I remember what I did. Everyone tells me it wasn't my fault and it could have happened to anyone, but that doesn't erase the guilt I feel about asking for that stupid backpack. If anyone has a chance to read this, and if you are going to get anything from my story, it's that anything can happen, anywhere at any time. And tell those you love that you love them, because you never know when someone will ask for their backpack. On my first job out of college, I wrote the software used to track tigers, so the government of India could find out where they were going and where poachers were poaching. They found some poachers. Now there are fewer poachers and more tigers. It doesn't bother me. People say euthanizing is illegal for humans in the US, but as a nurse, when I have palliative orders, they are to give narcotics and benzos every 5 minutes as needed. You betcha they are given every 5 minutes. I have killed people. They were about to die, and I hope that I took their pain away in the process, but the drugs I have given take that pain away and contribute to their death at the same time. That being said, I have never done this without an order from a physician or without family consent. Throw away anyway just in case someone decides to pick a bone. I'm a locomotive engineer. I drive trains. 13 times in my 19-year career so far, someone ended up in front of my train that didn't survive. Suicide, poor judgment or no sense of situational awareness combined with a vehicle that takes a mile or more to stop equals death about 50% of the time in my experience. The nightmares of various incidents awaken me regularly. Pretty sure that I suffer PTSD, but if I do something about it, I will lose my job, medically disqualified. I cannot let that happen at the moment as financial ruin would result. I was the driver in a car accident with my 3 best friends. The 3 of them died. I survived, somehow. Just writing that makes me nauseous today. And I say today because every day is different. Some days I can talk about it or write about it and I'm okay. And some days I just want to go back in bed and cry and scream. And today apparently is one of those days. The thing is though, you never really know until something triggers you. And I hate that word. And it leads you into a spiral. Okay, I have to stop writing now. When I was around 6, I had a habit of sleeping on the stairs. One day my sister, who was currently pregnant, was going down the stairs ended up tripping over me and fell down hard. She ended up miscarrying. I guess it's not killing someone in a traditional sense, but in a way I did kill my unborn niece/nephew. I never really got over it. It was and still is horrifying to me. I was 12 when it happened, and as much as it was a pure accident, my life was better afterward. My mum and I were living with her boyfriend at the time. This man was a drunk and an abuser. I came home one day from school to find him beating my mum down in the kitchen. I had never even thought about standing up to this guy. He was above 6'3" and very broad, but that day I came home from school made me summon all the courage I had to save my mum. As I ran over to them, I grabbed a fork off the table and stabbed him just below his shoulder on the back. It scared him so much that he had a heart attack and died on the floor. I was supposed to get up and check on my mom. She'd been fighting cancer for 4 years, and it had been the majority of my mid-20s. Spent my time on her, left college ECT. She was planning on getting up and driving herself to her doctor's that day, but I usually check on her because she can have bad days. I overslept. It was nearly 11 AM, and I woke to a phone call from my dad saying the doctors hadn't seen her. I checked upstairs in her room, the kitchen. Nothing. Then I saw the bathroom door open a crack. What was in there was basically half a mummy on the floor and f***ers everywhere mixed with I don't know what happened, but I called 911 without stepping foot in the bathroom. Hello, 911? My mom's dead. The flat pan explanation caught the poor guy off guard completely. I mean, I guess I was in shock, but not really that shocked, you know. He was in a full panic. I followed along and pretended to perform CPR. Her eyes were white. She was covered in ice cold and drained like a mummy. Sometime later, I don't have an idea for time perspective. It was all moving very slowly. The paramedics showed up. We are a small town. Everyone knew us. I'm in my underpants, and the lead paramedic is a good friend from high school. The awkward exchange was not something I forget. They pretended to do CPR for about 30 seconds, then get a command to keep working on it in the truck. I messaged him on FB later to ask if that was a show, which it was obviously. He said basically, we always do on deceased at the scene. This was all difficult, but just a gory version of expectation. The next part haunts me. I had to call my dad back. He ran home from work. He ran around the house getting her things. He wanted to make sure we had her medical info for the ERDRs and her medication list. I kept trying to explain we wouldn't need it. I kept trying to keep him in this world. I was too much of a coward. I was speaking in riddles. I couldn't do it. We get to the move to a small room with cheap furniture you only find in rooms where they tell you people die. The doctor came in and addressed him directly in what must have been at most 4 sentences. And then stared at him after him. Sorry. It was like he had been run over by a car. He just sobbed into his hands for what felt like hours. He got up without a word and left the room. I found him nearly half an hour later pacing in the parking lot. We decided to get faced. My fiance, now wife, Found us somehow 2 hours later 2 blocks away at a bar. To this day I don't know how. She must have checked every bar in town. A total mess. She sat with us for hours. My dad now has a girlfriend. He thinks I hate him for that, but I don't. Has earned whatever happiness he can find. He pushed through the hardest 4 years of their lives and tried to single-handedly beat cancer with no medical knowledge and no resources. He can be called a lot of shitty things in his life, but for 4 years he showed me what character is. I just wish I could been more courageous. It was my place to tell him, not that doctor.